What's up, world? Serge here, and in this video, I wanted to take some time and talk about vibe coding your way to context engineering using tools like Bolt, Lovable, Replit, or V0. And what I mean by that is you see a lot of conversations online happening around, oh, don't use Bolt, use Cursor, or use Windsurf. Maybe not as much anymore, RIP. Cloud Code will change your life and will make you a 10x context engineer. A lot of these conversations are happening, and you might be feeling like you're missing out by sticking to tools like this, where in reality, I do recommend you graduating into these separate buckets. And what I mean by that is someone that's primarily using Bolt or Lovable won't have as good of an experience using Cursor or Cloud Code, and it might actually hinder their experience and make them less productive, even though if you're a software engineer that's used IDEs their whole career, it might seem better. So pick the right tools for the right problems. I've been using Bolt for a hackathon that I did back in June, and I've been using it here and there right now, and you can get a lot of things done with it, but it's a matter of tweaking and optimizing your experience to the point where you can still vibe code, but you do it more meaningfully and more context aware. And at the end of the day, doesn't matter which one of the four or however many you choose, all of the technology will pretty much be the same for these AI page builders. Please don't one-shot things. I don't think you're gonna get anything meaningful out of one-shotting an Airbnb clone. Keep iterating and don't get stuck on the kind of first version that the AI page builder might come out with you, because there are ways to make it more compelling, better experience, and just look way better. And how do you do that? Well, you copy paste. I'll show you a few websites and things that I use to take the AI generated content and design to the next level, to stand out in the sea of all of these page builders putting out landing pages that for the most part might look the same. And overall, this concept that I'm calling the context engineering flywheel is something that I try to do when I'm building something. So you start by planning, you build it, you review, and you document and you iterate. What does this look like in practice? So for this video, what I wanted to do was go to Greg's idea browser, and I literally am doing this today. And so this is July 15th. The idea for the day is a screen break adventure box, $39 a month, to stop iPad tantrums. I don't have any kids, and I probably wouldn't have picked this as like the project that I'll be working on, but I'm gonna open source this. I'm gonna make my Bolt page public. Just wanted to pick something from today and see like a new project on Bolt and see what the experience is like, using some of the things that I've been using and finding very helpful. So Greg, and let's see. What we have here is a project that I've already duplicated because I've been tinkering with some things. But the idea is it's a landing page, very basic looking right now. I wanted to keep it that way on purpose so that we can iterate. I can show you how to do that. And there's also this other page, which is the quiz page. And you can do a quiz. And we might not be able to cover all of this in this one video because I want to keep it relatively short. The thing that I wanted to focus on in the beginning is your section. And this is, again, in the context of Bolt. All the other AI page builders will have something similar. And so in Bolt, you have a global system prompt and you have a project prompt. This will be specific to the project that you're working on. Actually, I generated, after the initial prompt of taking the project and building like initial landing page for it, for that, all I did was literally paste in, I don't have the history here, but I pasted in the URL ideabrowser.com, and I told Bolt, hey, the idea for the day, and I made sure that the title is there so that it understands to inspect that page and actually crawl it, because there were a few times that it tried to like idea browser as a platform using Bolt, which I think is a interesting idea that we can probably do some other time. But I gave it the kind of high level context of what this idea is. And then I left it ambiguous on purpose for Bolt to come up with a couple of things on its own, like picking the tech stack. So for this, it ended up using React Vite and Next.js. And again, those are things that if you want to learn more and you want to feel like you're being more productive, I definitely recommend diving in and getting the basics down for like how routing works or what the different like structure is, so that you could better debug in the future when things inevitably go wrong. But I let it cook. And then what I did was I asked it to create documentation, fill in the project prompt and the global system prompt. And it did a great job. So it summarized everything from the tech stack that this project is using, because again, you might be working with two separate projects. One can be an Expo mobile app. This can be application, kind of high level understanding of what the different things are, and even like planned integrations like Supabase and Resend and things that we're going to be working on in the future. And then the global system prompt was interesting. And yes, like the highlights are like, oh, psychophancy. I don't think I've ever said that word out loud, but things like you're absolutely right, which Claude loves to do. This was generated by Bolt for Bolt. Things that I find really helpful is providing guidance and plans. So again, this is kind of into this like iterate motion. I've seen it do it a couple times, which is really cool. Quick actions. This is a game changer. This will give you quick actions at the end here, always. And I find them super useful because it kind of you the next thing that you want to be doing. The other important piece was once it got to like a working version of the MVP with the basic stuff, asked it to create this docs folder and create all of the documentation needed to run this project and to get its context. Serves as the cursor rules in Cursor. Claude has their Claude.markdown file that it generates if you're using Claude code. So again, these are things that exist in these other environments, and beyond the project prompt and the prompt for Bolt, I find that this is a very good way for you to keep context of all the things that you're working on, and the execution plan is freaking key. So you can see that it kind of track of all the completed features that is done up to this point. Now on the next phase, which is visual and interactive improvements. It's 1 to 2 weeks. Again, this is going to be probably 5 to 10 prompts. That it thinks that it will take this long to execute all of this. This is again like key if you're downloading this and let's say you want to graduate to Cursor or you want to try a different AI page builder. This context easily available is going to help you keep the AI on track when it makes the changes. If it makes changes, again, like the iterate and document part of it, where let's say you add a new feature or you change an existing feature, you want to document it so that 20 prompts down the line, if you ask it to change something, it might just decide, oh, I'll just change everything. And we've seen that happen multiple times where kind of starts eating its own tail when it gets big enough. And I'm working on this. Let's see, like all I do is literally go, what is the next step in the execution plan? We're currently in phase 5, visual interactive improvements, animation. Okay, based on the execution plan, again, it knows it's there, so it is easy to reference it. Let's take a look at it here. 5.1 is micro interaction. If I didn't have this execution plan, what somebody would have wrote probably is add animations. And that's great for vibe coding, but you're now a context engineer. And so what you want to do is utilize this enhanced prompt feature. Click it once, and this turns that one single silly prompt into create smooth, engaging animations for, let's say, a landing page using motion React. This looks great. So again, by just clicking one button, you've essentially context engineered a prompt that is a lot more doable and a lot better consumed by these AI page builders. And what I want to also do is make sure to reference the execution plan.md file and update it once you're done plan. Again, try to keep changes relatively small so that if something does break, it's a lot easier to revert to a previous state, or just in general, debugging becomes a lot easier when you point it into a single feature or a single implementation instead of having one long prompt that says, do this, this. Again, we could probably go at this execution plan and tell it, hey, just do all of it at once. But that makes it really hard for the AI agent to keep context and for us to debug in the future when things definitely break. Yeah, still feels like vibe coding. You are just doing it a lot easier. All right, so what we have is a successful implementation of comprehensive animations for the landing page. Let's make sure it went through all of it. Quiz step transitions. So I think in phase 5.1, so it added a full section of landing page implementation. And let's see what it said. Scroll triggered animation for landing page and button hover effect. So quiz step transition, so that would be a separate thing. It's funny, it said successfully, but we have a problem. What are the problems? React, it's actually this import. Will inevitably break, like I said. And let's see if attempting the fix will actually solve the problem. One thing to point out with these attempt fix solutions, it will get into a loop where it will try to attempt to fix and it will error out again. One example, I had connected Supabase to Bolt and it created an environment variables file called .env, which is where you put your environment variables. Don't put them straight into the code, please. And what had happened was it accidentally overwrote the environment variables with just like strings that weren't the keys that it was looking for. And the error that it was giving was very arbitrary and very silly. And I've seen people on forums talk about this error, how they spent all of their tokens trying to fix it, when in reality, all they had to do was update their environment variable. So it's things like that where I do recommend getting to know the tools that you're using a little bit more in detail. So understanding how Supabase works, what are environment variables, how it all fits together, help you drastically with security and just the speed at which you can understand when something goes wrong, how to debug it. Pretty much what I've learned over the past 15 years is how to find solutions to problems quickly, was by finding the right Stack Overflow answer a few years ago. Now it's how do you point AI at the right problem and how do you quickly identify what the actual underlying problem is. So I don't think there's a shortcut there. I don't think you can vibe debug. In the future, who knows? But for now, understanding how these things work tremendously increases your chances of actually vibe coding and having fun with it instead of sitting here spinning wheels and wasting a bunch of tokens. So it looks like we did what we wanted to, and look at that. Already, this is looking pretty clean. Yeah, but still pretty cookie cutter. And here's where I go to find inspiration and literally copy design and taste. All21st.dev, there is a bunch of different examples of all of the different really cool components that you can use within your application. We'll say though, in order to make your application stand out, you shouldn't just dump all the different things into the application. A lot of these things are cool. Mix all of the animations and all of the experiences into one, because that will do more harm than good to your application. Try to find things that are contextual to the application that you're building. And Mobbin is a really good example of applications that kind of a lot of different things. Would look through other landing pages and get inspired by how they've done things, and you start to see patterns. You start to understand which things make sense in which context. But for now, what I'm gonna do is find something cool like this background boxes for the background of the hero section here. I think that would add a little bit of playfulness to it. And again, we're talking about adventure boxes. These are going to be boxes. Cool. So what we can do here is if we open up the component in 21st.dev, you can actually copy the prompt for this. And you can see they have a partnership with bolt.new, which is amazing for our use case. But again, you can see it's available for all the other AI page builders. Look at how this works out of the box by default. We've copied a prompt. And what I will do though is inside Bolt, like just paste it in here. Let's see what it gives me. Given a task to integrate an existing React component into the code base. Chassis and project structure, Tailwind CSS. What I'm going to do is instead of using the demo text above, please integrate this into the section. And on top of that, to make sure that it doesn't update a section that I don't want it to update, again, not a necessity, but a really valuable skill is to understand the project structure and all the different components that your application is using. And so here we can see that this is a landing page. So we have two separate pages, which are files used for to work. If you look at app, you can see this is kind of like the top level that has a router. And for our landing page, we have our landing page component. And I asked Bolt, so before it was all in one app.tsx file, I asked it to put everything into components before making a separate page, just so editing things will be a lot easier. And so hero section is the hero section here. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to components, we're gonna find hero section, and we're gonna actually target this file. And so AI changes are now limited to the one file, which will help me kind of the changes to make sure that it only applies it to the things that I want it to apply it to. Let's run it. Oh, so because I only limited it to the one, it tries to do the other things. Update file restrictions to allow for these changes. Before we do that, really good way to double check before you build it is to plan it. And so for that, we'll actually go into discussion mode here and we'll say, you think this is a good idea? And so now AI won't make any changes to any of the files, and we will have a think about it. And let's see, is it a good idea conceptually? And now and again, because of that system prompt, it actually gives me a couple of different things that if I was curious and I wanted to learn more, I can ask it to explain the CN utility for me, and open up the actual hero section file here to double check. But let's actually just update it. Okay, it told me that I can't update the files itself. So you know what? Let's reset the targeting. Again, gives me, I updated the file restrictions, proceed with the integration. You can get Bolt and all of these tools to be smarter, to do better, having the right things in place, like these documentation files that keep track of all the changes that you make and documenting the features so that if the context grows too large or you need to reset it or you need to move it, you have that information that's not just in your head or in separate files in your ChatGPT projects or Claude Code. It's all next to the code like it is in Cursor, like it is in Claude Code. And you can be more productive and have a better experience vibe coding using these AI page builders. And let's see. So it works on the sides here. I wonder why it doesn't work in here, but it's pretty cool. We're almost there with that implementation. And then you can see how you start with the basics, you start making sure that it works, you document it, you update documentation, and you plan the next feature. And it's a cycle that you keep going through, and you get to some amazing results in the future. So just to summarize, the project and system rules: use conversation mode to plan features, go back and forth with Bolt, save you on tokens because it's not actually doing file edits. I think it's using a different model for discussion mode than it is for coding mode. The features to point back to: have an execution plan that you can reference and check off. Again, helps mentally, helps keep it all in one place. You don't have to have linear tickets. You can have those in the future. Individual changes small, so try to limit the scope of the changes by either locking the files or making sure that you don't give it a bunch of different things to do all at once. Clicking that enhance your prompt feature, we'll learn by how it enhances the prompts of how to do your prompts better in the future, which will save you tokens because you're using tokens to enhance the prompts. Once you start seeing patterns, it'll be easier for you to do it yourself. Keep iterating. And yeah, one thing you can do is once you're done with all of your changes, documented it and probably download it before you do something like this. It helps keep the project smaller and the context more contextual. You just ask Bolt to remove unused files. For design inspiration, use 21st.dev for design engineering. And again, you can copy system prompts right from there for Bolt and all these other AI page builders, which is amazing. Com is an amazing website that has a bunch of screenshots of all the different apps and websites that are popular. Go through that and try to start acquiring taste for good design looks like. I would say Pinterest, but Pinterest is now being filled with a bunch of AI generated slop, which might not help. Mobbin is real curated applications that look really good. Debugging: if you run into issues, avoid repeated automated error fix attempts. Error handling to your project: there are tools like Sentry, if you're not familiar, that will make it really easy for you to get notified when something breaks, because inevitably you ship this, you have some functionality like the form or like the quiz that I have there. Somebody submits it and something goes wrong, it doesn't save it to the database. You want to be notified of that. Helps you with that. And if you get to a point where things aren't going as planned, and because you kept the changes small and because you are incrementing and iterating, reverting to the previous version will be super easy. And again, Bolt has functionality for reverting, so use that. If you have any questions, if you have any other feedback or other ways that you find using AI page builders better by not just vibe coding, but context engineering, let me know in the comments. Surge on X and YouTube, surge.tech. Much for watching. See you later.